We have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. The fact is, human beings are irrational. But there is a concept that human beings are rational, and we live according to that concept. Hello and welcome to episode 215 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast features carefully chosen extracts from the archives. Their aim is to represent different aspects of Krishnamurti's radical approach to many of the issues and questions we all face in our lives. This week's theme is Rationality. Upcoming themes are solitude, opposites, and humanity. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in Hampshire, UK. Brockwood is also home to Brockwood Park School, a unique international boarding school offering a personalised, holistic education. It is deeply inspired by Krishnamurti's teaching, which encourages academic excellence, self-understanding, creativity, and integrity. Please visit brockwood.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This helps our visibility. This week's episode on rationality has 5 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk in Ojai 1980, titled, Are Human Beings Rational?
What is the problem? Because in understanding the problem, the answer is in the problem, not outside the problem. You understand this? Whereas we say it's outside the problem. The answer will somehow lies somewhere else, not in the problem itself. Right? Can we go together, please? So, what is the problem? The problem apparently is society can only be changed if human beings who have created it change themselves. That is the real problem, the real core of the problem. Right? Society, which is corrupt, which is immoral, which is ugly, there is injustice, cruelty, the rich and the poor, you follow? All that. The society, which human beings have created it, not God, not some outside agency, but human beings have created it. Created the division, the national division, religious divisions, economic divisions, so on, so on, so on. Humanity has created it. Unless humanity of which we are changes fundamentally, you cannot bring about a society which is healthy, sane, rational. Right? The materialists won't accept this. They say, change the environment, then man changes. That is the totalitarian attitude. That is their whole historical, experimental approach. Change society, make laws, rules, control thought. Don't let them be free. Change that, and then man, who is also purely material, will change. Right? What we are saying is totally different. Which is humanity has created society. Unless humanity, each one, human beings, change, society cannot be changed. Which is being proved in the totalitarian world. The more intelligent you are in those states, the more you revolt against all that. And so you are either sent to concentration camps or expelled from the country. So the crisis is that. Now, how does each one of us, please listen to this for a few minutes, how does each one of us approach this crisis? You understand? Approach this fact that human beings have created society. Society cannot change by itself, because society is part of human beings. Unless human beings fundamentally change, society cannot change. That is the real core of our problem. And how do you come to that? You understand? Is it a mental, rational conclusion, an abstraction that you have after observing come to, or this is a fact? You see the difference? Is it a concept, an idea, or a fact? For you, if it is a concept, then see what happens. Concept is merely a conclusion derived cleverly or unintelligently, rationally or irrationally, a conclusion that society cannot be changed, human beings cannot be changed, so carry on amicably. There are those people who are saying this. Human beings are so conditioned, you cannot change that conditioning, but make it a little better. You know the group, you know this tendency of all that. So we are asking each other, is it an idea, because you have been told, or it's a fact for yourself? You see the difference? When it's a fact for yourself, not given by another, then you have to deal with it. That is, when you have pain, you deal with it. When you are toothache, you do something immediately. But if toothache is an idea, then you say, well, perhaps I'll postpone it. No, don't. So see the rationality of it. That brings up another point. Scientists think human beings are rational. But they are not. You understand? The fact is human beings are irrational. But there's a concept that human beings are rational. And we live according to that concept that we are. So we are never rational. I don't know if you follow this. What time is it, sir?
29 minutes on.
Don't need it. We'll continue every day for the next two weeks about this question. If it is a fact, then how do you how do you look at that fact? You understand? How do you come to the fact? So the approach to the fact matters. Is your approach rational or irrational? Is your approach pessimistic or optimistic? Is your approach based on hope, desire, and so on? If it is, your approach has already been dictated. If we are not free to observe the fact. You're following this? See, sir, this is enormously difficult. This isn't a thing you play around with. This is concerned with your life. Not somebody else's theories. However clever, however ancient, however so-called religious. It's your life. And how do you approach your life? You understand my question? Is your approach conditioned according to your education? Examine it as we go along. According to your social position? According to your immediate demand? Or your approach based on you believe in Jesus or Buddha or somebody? That is your approach to the problem imaginary? You understand? Because we live with images. I don't want to complicate this thing. Our whole life is formed through images. All our religions are images, either made by the hand or by the mind. But they are images which we then worship. And that we consider marvelously religious, which is idiotic. So, is our approach free from our conclusions, from our experience, from our knowledge? If it is from our experience, from our knowledge, you have already answered the problem, which will be according to time. You following on? Which will be according to your conditioning. But if you come to it freely, to observe, then there is immediate action.
The second extract is from the fourth question and answer meeting in Ojai 1980, titled, "Is there rational, sane justice in the world?"
When one sees in the world about us no demonstrable, universal principle of justice, I feel no compelling reason to change myself or the chaotic society outside. I see no rational criteria by which to measure the consequences of action and their accountability. Can you share your perception on this matter with us? Is there justice in the world? This has been a question for all the philosophers have gone into this, spinning a lot of words about it. Now, is there justice in the world? Rational, sane justice. You are clever, I am not. Right? You have money, I have not. You have capacity and other has not. You have talent, you can enjoy all that. Other is born poor. One has crippling disease and the other has not. The criminal, what we call criminals, and he judged and sent to prison or whatever takes place. So we consider that there must be justice, right? Seeing all this, we say there must be somewhere justice. So we move from lack of justice to an idea of justice. I don't know if you're following this. God is just. And so on. But the fact remains that there is terrible injustice in the world. Right? And the questioner wants to know, if there is no justice, why should I change? You understand? There's no point in it. Why should I change this chaotic world where the dictators are so supreme, their very life is injustice, terrorizing over millions of people. And seeing all that, there is no rational cause for me to change. I think that's a rather not rational question, if I may say so. Do you change because for some cause, because you are under pressure, or you are rewarded? It is change brought about by reward and punishment? Or you see human beings are so irrational right through the world, and all the things they have made is also irrational, and you as a human being, you as a human is the rest of humanity. I don't know if you see that. Right? And we went into it the other day. And if you are the rest of mankind, you are responsible. Not because you are rewarded, or you see so much injustice in the world, how the crooks get away with everything. They build marvelous churches and all the rest, a lot of money. And there are millions and millions and millions starving. So, change is not brought about through compulsion, through reward or punishment. The mind itself sees the absurdity of all this and says, you follow? It's per se. It sees the necessity of change in itself. Not because you tell me to change, or God or the priest or somebody tells me to change. I see the chaos around me, and that chaos has been created by human beings, and I am that human being, and I have to act. It's my responsibility, a global responsibility.
The third extract is from the first question and answer meeting in Saanen, 1981, titled, "Can You Are the World Be Justified on a Rational Basis?"
How can the idea of you are the world and you are totally responsible for the whole world, in quotes, be justified on a rational, objective, sane basis? I'm not sure. When it's not sure, it can be rationalized on a safe, objective basis. But we'll examine it first. First of all, the earth on which we live is our earth. Right? It's not British earth, the French earth, or the German, Russian, Indian, Chinese. It's our earth on which we're all living. That's a fact. But thought has divided racially, geographically, culturally, economically. That division is causing havoc in the world, obviously. There is no denial of that. That's rational, objective, sane. Right? And we have been saying human beings living on this earth, which is our earth, all ours, not the isolated, divided communities, our earth on which we are all living. Though politically, economically, we have divided it. For security, for various forms of patriotic, illusory, and which eventually brings about war. We have also said that human consciousness, please go into this with me, we may disagree, you may say it's all nonsense, but please listen to it and see if it is not rational, objective, sane. All our human consciousness is similar. Right? We all, wherever, on whatever part of the earth we live, we all go through a great deal of suffering. great deal of pain, great anxiety, uncertainty, fear, and we have occasionally, or perhaps often, pleasure. This is the common ground on which all human beings stand. Right? This is an irrefutable fact. We may try to dodge it, we may try to say it is not, I'm an individual and so on, so on. But when you look at it objectively, non-personally, as a British, French and so on, you will, in examination, you will find that our consciousness is like the consciousness of all human beings psychologically. You may be tall, you may be fair, you may wear long hair, I may be black, white, pink, or whatever it is. But inwardly, psychologically, we are all having a terrible time. We all have a great sense of desperate loneliness. You may have children, husband, all the rest of it, but when you are alone, you feel this feeling that you have no relationship with anything, totally isolated. I'm sure most of us have had that feeling. And we are saying this is the common ground of which all humanity stands. And whatever happens in the field of this consciousness, right, we are responsible. That is, if I am violent, I am adding violence to that consciousness, which is common to all of us. If I am not violent, I am not adding to it. I am bringing a totally new factor to that consciousness, right? So I am profoundly responsible either to contribute to that violence, to that confusion, to that terrible division, or as I recognize deeply in my heart, in my blood, in my depth of my being, that I am the rest of the world, I am mankind, I am the world. The world is not separate from me. Then I become totally responsible, obviously, which is rational, objective, sane. The other is insanity. To call oneself a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Christian, and all the rest of it. They are just labels. So, when one has that feeling, that reality, the truth of it, that every human being living on this earth is responsible not only for himself, but responsible for everything that is happening. Now, how will one translate that in daily life? Right? How will you translate it? If you have that feeling, not intellectual conclusion, as an ideal and so on, then it has no reality. But if the truth is that you are standing on the ground which is common to all mankind, and you feel totally responsible, then what is your action towards society, towards the world in which you are actually living. The world, as it is now, is full of violence, right? And only a very, very, very few people escape from it because they're carefully guarded, protected, and all the rest of it. One realizes, suppose I realize I'm totally responsible. What's my action then? Shall I join a group of terrorists? Obviously not. Obviously, competitiveness between nations is destroying the world. The most powerful, the less powerful, and the less powerful trying to become more powerful, which is competition. Not only nationally, which is destroying the world, shall I, realizing that I am the rest of mankind and I am totally responsible, shall I be competitive? Please answer these questions. When I feel responsible for this, naturally I cease to be competitive. And also, the world, religious world, as well as the economic world, social world, is based on a hierarchical principle. Right? And shall I also have this concept of hierarchical outlook? Right? Obviously not. Because that again is the one who says, I know, the other says, I do not know. The one who says, I know, is now taking a superior position economically, socially, religiously, and has a status. And if you want that status, go after it. But you are contributing to the confusion of the world. So there are actual, objective, sane action when you perceive, when you realize, when in your heart of hearts, in your depth of your being, that you are the rest of mankind and that we're all standing on the same ground.
The fourth extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk in Saanen, 1975, titled Reality is made up of rational and irrational thinking.
All our life is shaped by thought. And thought, which is time, which is measure, and its movement is always limited. Right? Thought can imagine that there is truth, that there is something beyond itself, and project from its limitedness something extensive, not limited at all, but it's still the movement of thought. Right? I can imagine that there is a heaven, that there will be a perfect society. I can imagine or project from my despair, from my loneliness, from my sorrow, from my anxiety, from my grief, from my struggle, a heaven, a God in which there is complete security, complete certainty, no suffering. But it is still the movement of thought. So, thought is the response of memory as experience and knowledge. So we are always operating in the field of knowledge. Right? Oh, come on. And knowledge has not changed man. We've had thousands of wars. Millions of human beings have suffered, cried, and we still carry on. The knowledge of war has not taught us anything except how to kill better on a vaster scale. Knowledge has not changed man. We accept division into nationalities. We accept that division, though it will inevitably bring about conflict with each other. We have accepted the injustice, the cruelty, which thought has brought about through knowledge. We are destroying species of animals. 50 million whales have been killed from the beginning of this century. Everything man touches brings about destruction. So knowledge, which is the response of memory, thought, which is the response of memory, experience, knowledge, has not changed man, though it has created an extraordinary technological world. So the problem then is, what will change man? You understood? If you say knowledge can change man, you have to be actual, not theoretical. That is, the actuality of change through knowledge as an instrument of which will bring about a different human behavior, radical. You understand? Radically, not superficially, not certain peripheral action on the outside. We are talking about the radical change of man through knowledge. And if you observe that knowledge has not radically, basically, fundamentally brought about a revolution, psychological revolution in man. He may be a little more kind, a little more clever, a little more tolerant, a little more this or that. But fundamentally he has not changed. He's still greedy, envious, competitive, aggressive, violent, suffering endlessly. So if knowledge has not changed man, then what will? You understand the question? Look, this is not a thing that you're going to understand in a couple of minutes. However clearly, objectively it is put. We have to have the capacity to investigate, not just accept words. Then words are meaningless. So you have to give your mind, your capacity, your energy to find out. We say the world of reality is the movement of thought and all the things that thought has created. The gurus, with their system, with their meditation, with their systems, with their philosophies, or all the activity of thought, and through thought there is no solution. It's not how to stop thought, but to find out if there is an energy which is not the energy of thought, right? So, what is the relationship? Please listen to this. What is the relationship between reality, you understand what I mean by reality, that's the reality which thought has brought about, the reality which thought has created, the actual being not only what is rational, sane, but also what is irrational, what is insane. Both are realities. The man who believes in God or in perfect state or something or other, he has thought it out, projected, come to a conclusion, however irrational, however neurotic, it is a reality. As well as the man who thinks clearly, rationally, and acts according to that rationality is a reality. Both are realities. The irrational, the neurotic, the insane, the crooked, as well as the as well as a man who acts according to a pattern, rational pattern. Both are realities. The neurotic and the non-neurotic. Because they're both brought about by the movement of thought as time, as measure. I wonder if you understand all this. This is the world you live in. We live in. And out of this world, we create a different world, a different philosophy, born out of this world, out of the world of reality. We create a world of thought which is called philosophical, intellectual, godly, spiritual, and all the rest of it. Right? So then I ask myself, as you must too, if thought is not going to resolve fundamentally our problem, then what will? You understand this question? Not theoretically, not as an idea, something put forward to you and you accept it and say yes, but something that you yourself actually see. Of which you are aware. So the problem is, are you aware the movement of thought as time, as measure, and all the things thought has created, the irreal and the real? Are you aware of this? Or are you aware, please listen, are you aware of the description which the speaker has given? You understand? Aware of the description, aware of the words, but not the actuality of this reality of thought, right? Which is it? Please, this has to be clearly, definitely understood before we go any further, because then it's a waste of time. Am I aware of the reality of all the movement of thought, what it has created in the field of technology, what it has brought about in the field, in the psychological field, and in the so-called spiritual field? Am I aware of the actual or of the picture? You understand? Have you understood what I hope I'm making myself clear. Am I aware of the description or the described? Am I aware of the word or the thing which the word represents? Because the word, the description is not the thing. So, which is it I am aware of? If I am aware of the word, the description, then it becomes terribly superficial. It has no meaning. But if I am aware not of the description, not of the word, but the actual thing, the actuality, then my relationship to it is entirely different. You follow this? So you have understood this? So which is it I am honestly, seriously aware of? The word or the thing? The word door is not the door. The explanation is not the explained. So I'm aware of the door or of the word. If I am aware of the real, the actual, then what is my relationship to the actual? You understand my question? Are you really serious about all this? Or you're just playing with me or with words? On a Sunday morning you have nothing else to do. And so go and listen to that poor chap. And perhaps he'll tell you how to live, which I'm afraid. So, don't let play games. I don't want to play games with you. So please, equally, have the respect not to play games with me. The word respect means to look again. You understand? To look again. When you don't look, that is disrespect. When you casually listen and go away, that is disrespect. But if you have respect, then you listen. You try to find out. And it's a mutual respect. I want to tell you something. If you're not interested, don't bother. And if you're interested, give that respect, which is to look again, consider again, watch again. So, what is it that you are aware of? The conclusion, the abstraction, or the actual? If I am aware of the actual, not the description, not the word may help me to understand the actual. But the perception of the actual is entirely different from the understanding through the word. You've understood this? Yes, sir? Thank God somebody does. So, I am aware of the movement of thought and all the things that it has created, both irrational and rational, insane, idiotic, superstitious, destructive, and thought that is put together various things. I'm aware of it. Then what is my relationship in that awareness to that thing which I have seen as actual? You understand the problem? Is this getting too much? I'll repeat it again. I am aware of the actual, not of the abstraction or the conclusion. That has no reality. What has reality is what actually is. Right? Which is, I am aware of the whole movement of thought, technologically, personally, collectively, in the field of economics, religion, so in relationship with each other. That is the actual reality. I am aware of that. Now, in that awareness, is there a division between me and the thing which I observe? You understand this? I want to find out, when I am actually aware of the movement of thought, is that thought different from the observer? Or the observer is itself the thought? Because if this is not clear, I will live everlastingly in conflict. Which is the movement of thought again, isn't it? I wonder if you see this. See? Is the thinker different from the thought? Is the entity who is aware of the actual being, that which is thought has created, neurotic as well as non-neurotic, is that different from the man who is observing it? Or the division is non-existent, and therefore the observer is the observed, the thinker is the thought. And therefore division ceases, right? Therefore I am aware totally.
The final extract in this episode is from the fourth talk in Ojai 1980, titled End Fear and One Becomes Rational and Sane.
Let us together observe the nature of fear. Why, after millions and millions of years, we have not resolved that problem? Do you understand my question, sir? Why? We have resolved many problems outwardly in the world, in the environment, and so on. But fear is not out there, but in us. This is psychological reaction. And why haven't we, with all our cunning, with all our knowledge, with all of our experience, resolved the problem of fear completely? Is it we have never looked at ourselves, but always relied on others to tell us what we are? You understand what I mean? We have never looked at ourselves, actually what we are. Not according to the philosophers, psychologists, and the experts, because they themselves have never looked at themselves. They have ideas about themselves. Is it that we have never observed ourselves as we observe ourselves in a mirror? The mirror, if it is clean mirror, then it doesn't distort. It shows exactly what you are, what your face is like. But to so observe ourselves without any distortion demands that you look without any motive, without any desire, without any pressure, just to watch, just to observe. So similarly, we are going to observe the movement of fear. Most of us are afraid. We're not talking about physical fears, that's also involved, but losing a job, all that. Not having employment, not having enough money, having had pain, physical pain, fear of not having the pain again. So there are all the physical fears. And it's much more important to understand first the psychological fears, because then perhaps we can do something about physical fears more sanely, rationally. Right? May we proceed? We are doing it together. You're not listening to me. We are together observing this extraordinary thing called fear, which man has carried for 1 million years. And the speaker says it can be ended completely psychologically. All fear. If you have the capacity to observe this fear, not direct it, not say I mustn't have it or I must have it, I must, all that. What is fear? Is fear time? You understand? Time being that which has happened yesterday and that which might happen tomorrow. You understand? Which is time. Is that the cause of fear? Go into it slowly. Let's go into slowly. Because when we have finished observing fear this morning, it must end so completely that you have no psychological fears at all. Then you are a rational, sane human being. Because at present we are irrational. Is fear time? That is, having had knowledge of fear, right? The knowledge of fear. That is, you've lost somebody, or somebody has given you the feeling of insecurity. Not being able to understand, to grasp, to all that. You follow? You have, is knowledge part of fear? Huh? You follow? You're attached to somebody. And that attachment has given you safety, security, a sense of communion, talking over. And the ending of it creates a sense of insecurity, right? Does that insecurity create fear? Obviously. Which is what? The knowledge of ending something might bring about more pain or more uncertainty, right? So there is fear. That is, does knowledge of a past experience create fear? Vous avez compris? So, isn't knowledge time? Both the you need to have time to learn a language, learn a technique that requires time. And the psychological accumulation of knowledge is also time. So we are asking each other, does this accumulated knowledge psychologically, is that one of the factors or maybe a central factor of fear? You understand all this? Come on, sirs. Look, when you're attached to somebody, it's not only to the person, but to the idea. You follow? The whole structure and nature of that person, with your image of that person. In that, there is great security. Now, if you lose that security, there is fear. That is the previous knowledge of being secure in attachment, that knowledge, letting that knowledge go creates fear. Right? So knowledge is knowledge, psychological knowledge, one of the causes of fear. I wonder, all right? Please, sirs, bear in mind, at the end of the talk, talking over together, walk out without a single shadow of fear psychologically. Otherwise, this talking over together means nothing. Is fear a movement of thought? You understand? That is, there has been fear in the past. There is the memory of that, the remembrance of that, and the remembrance is movement of thought. Right? Which again is the movement of knowledge. Right? And this knowledge is stored up in the brain, and this knowledge is me. Right? When I say I am attached, to you. I am attached to you because you are the audience and I derive great pleasure from it. Because I can talk to you, fulfill myself, all that nonsense. And that gives me a great sense of fulfilling. So, thought has experienced this sense of power. That thought then says, if I let this go, I'm frightened. I'm nothing. Right? So is fear the cause of me, I? Go into it, sirs. This is a very serious thing we are saying. As long as there is this central entity with its self-centered activity, which is desire, attachment, greed, you will always have fear. Right? So when you understand all this, not words, not ideas, not through the intellect has its place. This understanding is to see totally this whole fabric. That means to have immediate insight into the nature of fear. Then perhaps only there will be love. Fear and love cannot go together. See what we have done? We know that very well, consciously, or even unconsciously we know that. But as we haven't resolved that problem between human beings, we say, well, let's love God. You understand, sirs? How we have transferred that which must exist between human beings, and that can only exist when there is no fear. We have transferred that love to some object created by thought. And we are satisfied with that. Because it's very convenient that we can keep ourselves individual, self-centered, anxious, frightened, greedy, attached, and talk about love of God, which is sheer irrational nonsense. So, at the end of our talking together this morning, as two friends who are involved with this problem, who are concerned with the social order, which is disorder, and seeing that there must be a transformation in oneself before society can be changed, they are talking over together this problem. Of desire, greed, attachment and fear. That's the pattern in which we have lived. In that pattern we have found great security. And that pattern in that pattern there is fear. And seeing that totally is to have an insight into it. And when you have an insight, the whole problem is completely changed, broken. Can we say that to ourselves honestly? That we have broken this pattern of fear. When you walk out of this place, to be free of this thing. Then you become a rational, sane human being.